Welcome to Leading Through Crisis, a conversation series exploring the idea of leadership in challenging times. Hi, welcome to Leading Through Crisis. I'm your host, Celine Williams, and I'm here today with Denise Alison. Denise is a social media strategist who helps businesses build stronger relationships with their online communities through engaging content. She focuses on the importance of authentic connections and real conversation. She lives and works in rural Nova Scotia. Thank you for joining us, Denise.
Thanks for having me, Celine.
It's a pleasure. So I've known you a little bit, but I haven't seen you in a while. So why don't you sort of tell us what you're up to in the world and what's going on in your life right now?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm a social media strategist for businesses who want to create content online and build communities that are engaging. And it's not just like screaming their message into a megaphone, but taking the opportunity to engage with their audience in terms of content, really just taking things that could be either boring, I use that like lightly boring, technical, or hard to understand and make them more fun, engaging, and simple for the user to understand. So I spend most of my time doing that and also coaching people through creating effective social media marketing strategies. So that's what I spend most of my time doing right now. Of course, we're in the middle of the corona pandemic. So I've just been staying home. I ordered myself a spin bike from Amazon. I
Amazing.
am typically a runner, but I've been having some injury problems, so I can't really get out and run. So I got the spin bike to give myself some kind of activity that's beyond walking or stretching. So that's what I'm going to be spending the next few days doing.
Amazing. I love that. I'm going to ask this question because I think as a social media strategist and content creator, you have a unique lens on this.
Mhm.
What are you seeing as trends right now that are coming up with social media or with content that, from your perspective, are either really effective or
Mhm.
overdone or overused or ineffective?
For a lot of the people that I work with and like the business owners that I know, the way that they grow their business is really through basically being or getting in front of a room or getting in a room full of the right people. And that's how they grow their business. They grow it through networking, they grow it through speaking and really things that involve a bunch of things that we're not allowed to do right now. So they're probably feeling really stuck. And I've definitely heard some feedback from people being like, this is the end of my business. I can't get out. I can't network. How am I going to attract customers? And these kinds of things. And for me, because as you mentioned, I do live in rural Nova Scotia, this has always been an issue for me. Getting to those of the rooms full of the right people is not something that I can really easily my location. I do travel from time to time to go to conferences and speaking events, but it's obviously not something I can be doing all in a more urban center would be doing. So I've grown my business primarily through building relationships and really trying to approach that the same way you build relationships in person or face to face, because as technology evolves and society evolves, we're spending less time face to face. Like people aren't going out for happy hour drinks after work, or people aren't necessarily golfing for business deals. These relationships are happening online. Peeling back the layers, pulling back the curtain, and letting people connect on a more human level. And for them to care about you, they need to feel like they relate to you in some way. And that's going to mean that you have certain things in common. So maybe you have a dog, or maybe you like running or spin biking, or some of the things that I mentioned already during this interview. But it's helping people to relate to you on a human level, and then they're going to be naturally curious about what you do business wise, but not focusing so much on business first, but focusing on connections first. So that's what works. That's how business has always worked. It's just that the place that those conversations and interactions are taking place is now moved to the online sphere, mostly social media, because it's more interactive. And so that's where it's happening. I've seen a lot of, we were talking about this before you hit record, I've seen a lot of virtual summits pop up, which Virtual summits can be fantastic, but it's kind of become a trendy thing and it's become so saturated that like I no, I don't want to sign up for your summit because I'm not going to watch it because I signed up for 20 others and maybe watch some of it, but of course we all have limited time to do that kind of thing and to consume other people's content. And so if you're planning on doing a summit, really think about whether it's worth the time you're going to put into it, the money you're going to put into setting it up. And I mean, there it takes. I've read too, so this is why I know it takes so much time, so much energy, time away from doing other things in your business that might make money. Maybe you're not making money right now, so you're like, well, might as well. But there's so many out there, so really consider if it's the right choice for you. Knowing that just creating a virtual summit's not an automatic attention grabber, list builder, or visibility booster.
It's really interesting because we were talking about this before, and I've had people ask in doing these interviews that I'm going to be doing, are you going to turn into a virtual summit? And I've said no, that
Yeah.
I just want to release conversations that are valuable for people in as they come in, right?
Yeah.
Obviously process them for a few days, but not in a virtual summit. For that
Yeah.
reason is that I don't think most people who sign up for them actually watch them when they're set up that way. And I think right now people have time and they're just
Mhm.
like the response is, how do I create content? And everyone is pushing or thinking of virtual summits as the content, right? The
Yeah.
number of people that have popped
Yeah.
up and been like, I want to do this summit. I want to do this. It's my Facebook, my LinkedIn. It's absurd.
Yeah.
So for people who want to be creating content right now and
Yeah.
who want to leverage this opportunity, what are some suggestions you might have or things that they could think about? Because like in the idea of leading through crisis, how can
Yeah.
they lead themselves online, whatever it is in this time?
Think about what's happening in the world right now and how it relates to what you do. If you have some kind of guidance or expertise that you can offer people, that's amazing. So just think about how you can do that and how it relates and create some content. So it might be written content. Maybe you're a great writer, maybe video, maybe you're great on video, or like you just hate writing, or maybe you hate video and you want to write. But think about how you can do that if you're not already actively creating content. I mean, now's a good time to start because everyone's at home kind of looking at social media. But for someone like me where I offer social media marketing and you're like, well, how can that help people during this pandemic or this crisis? And for me, there are two things. First of all, is that people kind of get nervous about marketing themselves, especially women. We get nervous about marketing ourselves when other people are suffering. So people might be thinking, oh, it's tacky to market myself right now, or oh, I'm so panicked right now that I can't even think about marketing, or all these other thoughts that kind of come through their minds. Also, as I mentioned earlier, people are stuck at home and they can't do the things they might normally do to grow their business. So for me, I'm creating more content about how you can use social media during this time to continue to grow your business, even though you're stuck at home. Of course, nothing's ever as good as face to face human interaction. Like, I'm not saying that social media can completely replace that, but if you haven't already been using social media to make your face and your expertise and generally you as a brand or as a business known, it's time to rethink about how you can do that. So that's what I've been doing. Honestly, the first week I was a mess and I didn't create any content because I didn't know what to do. I was like, this, I've never been in a situation like this before. I think most of us haven't. And I didn't want to seem tone deaf in like the way that I would normally create content because it had nothing to do with anything really. And so I had to take that first week to process things. And I was like, okay, how can I best use my knowledge and my expertise to help people out right now? And that's guiding them through kind of the maze of social media and marketing while they're kind of stuck at home, while this pandemic is happening, while the conversation isn't necessarily on social media marketing, but it's still a huge part because unlike other like, global situations or like other pandemics or crises that have happened in the past, we're not actually isolated. We're physically distanced and we are physically isolated from other people, but we have more access to information and to people than ever before. So we have the ability to do that. So helping people realize that they can still do that. So that's part of um, my like leadership actions right now to give an example. The second thing I've been doing is sharing tips for people on really how to get about their day. I have in the past, I've gone through a lot of mental health and anxiety issues, which basically your mind gets consumed with worrying thoughts and you can't think about anything else or get anything done. And lo and behold, this has prepared me for this situation where generally a lot of people they're feeling consumed by these thoughts. They don't know what to do, but it's outside of their control. The same thing happens when you have anxiety. You're worrying about things that you have zero control over. So I've kind of learned to control those thoughts. And so I've been kind of offering solutions for people. It's like one easy tip per day. So don't spend all day telling yourself not to think this because it's gonna blow up and like all you're gonna be able to think about is don't think about this. But you also can't spend all day thinking about the problem. So giving yourself like 15 minutes to worry about this, starting your day off positively, like things that are going to help people be in a better frame of mind to actually do the things they need to do during that day. I'm also a fairly positive person, so I do want to bring some positivity into their world and just help them feel as normal as they can. For some people, that's much harder. For me, I always work from home. So my day to day isn't really that different. Not saying that I haven't had my fair share of setbacks because the economy is suffering right now. Therefore, we're all suffering. But helping them bring some normalcy back into their lives.
So when you think about, I love that there's a lot in what you said, and I want to talk about, you mentioned being like the idea of you didn't want to feel tone deaf that first week. And I want to talk about that for a second because I think a lot of people are, they have something that they want to say or they want to be positive. So like, if you, my Instagram is like literally me re-Instagramming, re-gramming, whatever you call it, like Tank's Good News, which are all these like really positive stories coming out because that's my leading. And it's in the context of this, but that is definitely how I tend to lead, or and what I put out into the world. And I recognize that there's a lot of people who are very hesitant because they don't want to seem tone deaf. They either don't want to be like everything's going to be perfect and this will end too, or whatever the case may be. So how have you found the balance in that for yourself, and how do you have any tips or ideas of how people can find that balance for themselves?
Yeah. So again, it's looking at the situation right now and how what you do relates to that. So in all of my content, it's it's knowing that this is happening. I'm not saying, oh, just be positive and your day will be fine. It's this shit has hit the fan and now we need to address it. So if you're not quite sure how you can do that, well, just think about maybe you need to weave in a couple of sentences about, okay, this I'm saying this because of this situation. Most likely, like I tend to plan my content in advance. Like, do I always know? But the idea is that I would have already known what content I was going to be putting out right now weeks ago. That probably needs to be scrapped for most people. For some, again, it's going to be different situations for different businesses. Some businesses have been told they need to close. If you're a salon, if you're a gym, if you're an eat in a restaurant, like, yeah, you're going through something a little bit more challenging, or a lot more challenging, I should say, than people who have been told to stay at home. Like that's kind of what's happening right now. But it's knowing that people are being laid off, people are losing contracts, losing jobs, getting sick, struggling, and think about, okay, how do I fit into this? If you're gonna go out there and be like, I don't even know what a great situation would be right now. If you're serving an industry that's basically on pause right now, might be restaurant or salon, like maybe you sell to salons. Well, you can't just keep going out there and doing the things you were doing because your reality has changed. So think about other ways that you might be able to serve people and proceed with that. It's going to be a lot of trial and error right now for a lot of people, but it's just knowing who your audience is probably going to go a long way here in knowing, okay, what are they struggling with and how you can really change your messaging to fit the current dynamic of what's happening.
I think what you just said is super important, that idea of changing your messaging. One of the things that I have found most tone deaf when I've seen when or that have struck me as tone deaf when I've seen it is like ads that were happening 2 months ago and I see them now that are it's the exact same ad, nothing has changed. That seems super tone deaf. People selling with the same messaging, even on their first Facebook pages or LinkedIn, or promoting with the same messaging that they would have done because that's what they'd planned. That feels really tone deaf. And like this is my 2 cents, not a social media person. You please push back if this does not sound in line. But for me, what would seem to make the most sense is actually pausing anything that you have going on in that way that is marketing or messaging or promotionally related to reevaluate and reposition that messaging, because it's not that you don't want to. I mean, people have to make money. There's nothing wrong with selling or serving right now. There's nothing dirty about that if you can help people do it. But doing it in a mindful way where it's not just, oh, well, this was planned 2 months ago, so I'm just going to keep doing it with the same language and the same positioning as before.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I saw an ad for a marathon in, I'm not 100% sure where it was. It's like every running event right now has been canceled. Like, why am I seeing this right now? It seems strange. So really reevaluating the, like you said, the wording, the messaging, what you're saying, and who you're targeting. If you're targeting people who are all unemployed right now, yeah, like you probably need to reevaluate that as well.
There could be an opportunity to build a community with those people right now to serve them in a way that doesn't cost them any or a lot of money. That might not be the thing that builds your business right now, but if runners are I'm picking on runners just because you said runners, but if runners are your community and they're struggling for employment, but you can help them with work from home tips that you can offer for free, then create a community around that. Like there are opportunities here, but the taking that step back to be like, they might not be, the monetization might not happen right now.
Yeah. I mean, for a lot of people, right now is going to not be a growth period in terms of finances. It's going to be an audience growth and relationship growth period. So it's going to be you're putting in the work now, and that's going to pay off in at some point in the future. So focusing on those relationships first, which well you should be doing anyway, and seeing how you can serve people, and then growing with that. So I'm sure you've seen all these like services, like subscription services pop up where they're offering a longer free trial. Like some of it annoys me that you still need to put in your credit card, but if you get like they're just all really smart, so you get addicted to the service. So I signed up for the 90-day free trial of Peloton. I don't have the bike, that is thousands of dollars, but you can sign up for like the spin classes online, and it's 90-day free trial and then like 12.99 per month. If I love that service and like I can't not have this in my life now, well then they've gained that customer in 3 months from now. Same thing's happening with, I think Scribed is offering free services. I don't recall
Zoom
if
is
Zoom is, but all of these subscription services are offering like a longer free trial, or free trial with like unlimited access to all the cool stuff that they do that you wouldn't normally. And so they're not making money off of that. But once your free trial is over and you get used to having this amazing thing, you might become a customer. So that's another way that you could think about it as well.
I would add to that that I've seen more ads for free trials. So even like as an example, apparently Chris Hemsworth has a workout app.
Okay.
I did not know this. It was like a
Is it him? Is it him working
it's
out?
him. It was like a targeted ad that showed up. They're doing a 6-week free trial. I think it's normally 7 days that you can, and I was like, this is really, I didn't even know this existed. So I'm not even
Right.
someone who was like, oh, maybe I'll go do that. I had no idea. But because it's the 6-week free trial, I'm like, wow, this is new in my world. So there is opportunity to get in front of new faces and new eyes, and you build an audience and people who at the end of the day, they're going to feel like you cared about them enough to give them something when they were struggling,
Yeah.
which means long run, they're going to be much more loyal to you and interested in what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, the people who are right now burying their head in the sand and doing whatever they're doing during this time, and they're not showing up as a bit of a, and not to sound a bit like too wooey, but as a comforting presence right now and leading people through this crisis, to use the title of this
Yeah.
series. Once things pick back up, they're not going to have the same like power or impact as those who have. So just like bundling down and getting work done. I mean, there's something to be said that that does need to happen, but thinking about how you can lead others at this point as well and help them through their own things, like depending on your area of expertise.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, so I'm going to ask this sort of like broad question at the end, which is, um, so first of all, always, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about or you wanted to mention before we wrap this up?
Um, Not really. I mean, there's always more that we could talk about, but it's just taking the time every day to engage with your communities online. So whatever social media platform feels like home to you. For me, I love LinkedIn. If it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, TikTok, whatever, take the time to check in, maybe leave a positive message on other people's posts, and think about how you can create content that's helping some of the challenges you might be seeing popping up either there or through conversations you're having with other people. Think about how you can help other people connect with them and engage with them and not just push your marketing or sales messages.
I think that's a great place to end. And at some point, we'll have another conversation about TikTok because I have a whole different series of thoughts around that. So Denise has a 7-day social media social distancing challenge starting next week. I'll have the link to that under here, but I'm going to say it really quickly. It's Denise Allison, DeniseAlison.com, 7-day-challenge. So the link will be under here, and I encourage everyone to sign up. Denise is amazing at what she does. So thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I hope you have an amazing day.
You too. Stay flu free.
You too. Thank you. Thanks for listening to us talk around leadership in challenging times. If you would like to learn more about us or any of our guests, you can find us online at www.leadingthroughcrisis.ca. If you like the show, please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts from.